Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Maria Martinez, your host. Welcome to Happy, Healthy, and Successful. We are having a beautiful lineup of guests who are on purpose, sharing their gifts, sharing them with the world, inspiring the world, bringing hope. And today we have Gertrud de Witte. Thank you so much for being here, Gertrude. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I'm in the Netherlands, and how this all started for me is that I was actually working in corporate. I had a demanding marketing job, and I burned myself out completely and ended up on sick leave for 6 months. So it was then that I realized that, the rat race of targets and budgets and, impossible deadlines was no longer what was right for me. So after a very dark night of the soul, it was when I finally discovered my divine nature, my soul's purpose, and that is to help others turn their often seen as debilitating traits into their power, so that they can feel confident and balanced, and in sharing their gifts and shine their brightest light. So I decided to leave the corporate world. I got myself retrained first as a coach, as a therapist, and later also as an energy healer. And so now I work with individuals, with entrepreneurs, and professionals on the spiritual path to help them heal their core emotional wounding. So so I can tell you a little bit more about my dark night of the soul, but I think, considering the topic today, it'll come. it'll we'll talk about that. But it was, for me, it was the what I'm actually focusing on right now with people is that I really like to help what I call closet change makers to come out of hiding and to really embrace their power, their gifts, and to bring that out into the world. So, and make an impact with that.
Beautiful. And I think the audience can relate with what you just shared. First of all, not being in alignment with what they truly love. And, if you can imagine that many people feel that way, they're looking for that fire, that passion, that purpose that inspires them. And also there's some fears, even when they do find what it is, the fear of that transition, the doubts, the insecurities about whether they're enough, whether they can have what it takes, or whether they can be successful at that new beingness. So I think what you said really relates, and people can relate to it, because I think at one point or another, we all went through that, switching, transitioning, and now moving into what brings us joy and happiness. So that's very powerful. Share a little bit about some of the processes that implement, or practices that you share with your clients or the people that you work with to connect to their power, to find that courage or that alignment within them, to feel the freedom and the flow and the ease about stepping out of the closet, or just stepping out in general and shining their light, their brilliance.
Yeah, so the first thing I want to say about that is usually what holds us back the most are our fears, right? And these fears, they cause a lot of self-sabotage. I mean, we've all experienced that, right? And it's good to know that these fears are there for a reason, right? They keep us safe. They keep us from making mistakes that have caused us pain or sadness or other sorts of suffering, right? And it's good to know that these fears can be healed, right? And it's what I call, we need to clear out the basement. We really need to dig in deep to get to the root causes of our fears, so they can be healed. We can pull out those weeds once and for all, right? Instead of trying to, like I did in my corporate job, right, is to work harder, to strive more hours, right? And in the end, it's not working. It doesn't work for anyone, I believe. I burn myself out, and I see a lot of my clients heading in the same direction, or, they have already burned themselves out. So it's that male energy that a lot of us grew up with, that is not working for us, especially women, but also, sometimes for the men, right? And so what I help my clients is to go down to these deeper layers of their wounding, and help them heal and dissolve them. So to give you an example, self-sabotage, shows up in many different ways. But when we really look at the deeper layers, a lot of times it's about not feeling safe, not feeling safe to put ourselves out there. It's often about unworthiness. I'm not good enough. I'm not okay the way I am. And those are, for a lot of people, big issues, and there's more, but these are some of the, the most common ones that I see in people. And I also know very well myself, because in the end, that's what got me burned out. Yes, it was my perfectionism. Yes, it was my high sensitivity. I had a hard time dealing with in the corporate world, and I wasn't following my passion, my purpose. So those were for me the three things. But when I dug deeper, I came to so much wounding underneath, the superficial self-sabotage, that I realized I needed, more help, and I needed deeper healing, deeper clearing. So. And that's what I help my clients with today. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And going down to the deeper levels is so important, because there's parts of us that are stuck in that trauma, stuck in that wounding, stuck in that image or story that is creating, barriers and resistance and all these other sort of identities that we take on, like not good enough, or not feeling worthy or deserving. So when we get to those deeper layers, we can uncover what is there, the truth. And a lot of it is from our childhood. Some of it may be from other lifetimes, but most of it is from our childhood, what we learned, what we saw in our environment, what we took on from others. So what was projected, what we felt was the truth, or at the moment we interpret as the truth, and it became ours. So when we can really get to those deeper layers, then we can be free. We can be free to choose what we truly desire, what brings us joy and happiness. And It's easy to make that transition over to that new joyful possibilities. And the fear actually becomes our friend, because it's an opportunity. We don't look at it as something that is going to take us out. We look at it as like, interesting. There's something here for me to know. Beautiful. Yes. Tell us a little bit about your practice, or maybe a process around noticing that you're out of alignment or misaligned, and how to integrate that soul alignment.
Yeah. So sorry, can you clarify your question a little bit?
Yes. So how does someone know? What are some of the indications that someone can understand, see, observe, that will let them know that they're out of alignment? I'm sure happiness, but there's several that we can share with them. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. There's actually a lot, right? There's a lot, because there's. I feel that when we are misaligned, it a lot of times it does show up as self-sabotage. That's in the end, that's how we can tell that we are misaligned. But some of the things that we can look at, or that are some telltales that we are not aligned, is a lot of self-judgment. Right, having a very strong inner critic, never good enough. The relationship to that, it's the unworthiness, the needing to fix yourself, It's also fearing our own greatness, right? Fear of being in the spotlight, fear of being visible, but it's also distracting ourselves, procrastination, hiding, playing small, staying under the radar. It's also not being in touch, not feeling connected to often to our body, and therefore also not feeling connected to our inner guidance, our intuition, not trusting ourselves, not trusting our intuition. There's a lot of what I call having an external compass, and what I mean by that is. That we're very reliant on the outside world to feel good. So we need a lot of approval. We continuously scan our environment for danger and criticism. So we brace ourselves. Another one could be isolating yourself, not asking for help, not allowing any help. So those are, there's a long list, but I think that gives you a pretty good idea, right?
Yeah. And yes, even in the health of the body, that can be represented through symptoms, ailments, chronic disease.
Yeah, exactly.
And there are many different ways.
Oftentimes.
And there are many different ways for us to heal. One of them is through forgiveness. One of them is through kindness and compassion. One of us to reintegrating those parts of ourselves. So as to go back and doing regression and healing those aspects of ourselves and bringing them into alignment, aging those parts of ourselves. What are some of the other ways that you can release that scarring from that wounding?
Well, I can tell you a little bit about how I work with clients. I work with compassion, as I feel that's one of the very powerful tools to use. So I feel that a lot of times people are wanting to fix themselves, right? They want to get rid of their wounding. They want to get rid of their inner critic. And actually, that's very much a way that works like a boomerang, right? Because what I feel is really needed when we are talking about healing our wounded parts is that we don't want to shut them up. We don't want to shove them aside, but we really want to give them a lot of compassion. So the way I work is that we work with the wounded parts and we acknowledge them for what they perceived, what they may have experienced. And by acknowledging them, we give them compassion. And that's actually a very healing way, a way of healing these inner parts. So we pull them back out of the darkness, so to speak, where we stuff them right deep down inside of us, and we acknowledge them and we give them a lot of compassion. And it's very simple method. It's very gentle, but it's really, really powerful. So I really love it. And another really great benefit of this kind of work is that I work a lot with perfectionists who usually are quite hard on themselves, right? And they tend to blame themselves a lot and criticize themselves a lot. And what this also does, it really teaches you how to be more kind and gentle and compassionate with yourself. So for me, apart from the deep healing, that was very, very, very helpful for me to be more kind to myself. So
beautiful. I love that. I use a lot of loving kindness and compassion in my work as well. And it is so powerful. Because you create a beautiful space for everybody just to feel safe, first of all. Secondly, to see themselves without judgment and to experience their own compassion. And you're right, it's very powerful, even though it feels very gentle and very kind. I feel like when we're open in that space, or when we create that space, a lot of the nurturing comes in, a lot of the mother energy comes in, a lot of the goddess energy comes in to help them heal. So it accelerates their healing. At least that's my experience when I'm working with my clients, just creating that beautiful space for them to love themselves, know themselves.
Yeah, to get out of that masculine energy that so many women got stuck in, right? And to embrace their own softness as, the feminine softness, which is, much more gentle.
Yes, yes,
yeah.
yes.
And so by doing that work, it's like we're upgrading our operating system. We change the script of our movie that's called life, and we transcend the fight, flight, freeze mode so many people are in, right, in survival mode. So yeah.
Beautiful. Is there a easy practice that you can recommend, share with the audience, that they can start doing or do on a daily basis that can really support them in connecting to their soul and aligning with their soul?
Yeah, I do have a gift that people are welcome to download. We'll talk about that later, I guess. But what they can do for themselves is to connect daily, preferably even every hour of the day, is to connect themselves with their soul, with source, and to really tap into those higher frequencies and really bathe themselves in those frequencies, and to ground with Mother Earth. And I know it's very simple, and you've probably all heard it before, but try and practice it. Maybe even for one day, that you do it every hour on the hour, and see what happens. And because we grew, most of us grew up that we have to do it all alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we get connected, when we get grounded, it makes such a huge difference. I'm sure, you know how it works. And, we are so much more supported. We are in such different vibration where we put ourselves, or we actually tap into a much higher frequency where things become so much easier. So for me, that's been so helpful to get out of fight flight mode, and to be in a space where I'm more, I feel less stress. I am more creative. I feel more peaceful. I feel more safe. So for me, that's been, a big game changer, even if it's, if it sounds very simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be difficult. Connecting with yourself doesn't have to be difficult, or it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be time consuming. It could be very easy, just like you described, taking the time to come into the stillness and reconnecting to yourself and being there with yourself for a moment.
Yeah.
And then enjoying that, because that's cultivating the relationship with yourself, your soul, with the spirit. And then it becomes easier and easier for you to do that automatically. So wonderful, Gertrud. How can our audience connect with you? Where can they find you if they would like to know more about what you do, your body of work?
Yeah, so they can find me on the internet. Of course, I have my own website, which is soul-creations.com. Mm-hmm. And for anyone who is interested in knowing more about my work and what that can do for them, I have a free healing MP3. It's right there on my homepage, and it's called Healing Your Relentless Inner Critic, because that's one of the biggest self-saboteurs that we usually have. And so this is a very short MP3 which introduces you to, my way of working, and so you're welcome to download that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you with us. It's been wonderful. Anything else? Any other messages that you would like to leave with the audience? Maybe something that was your aha, your awakening, something that just you remember. It was the pivot point in your life, and it changed the course of your life.
Yeah, for me, it was, realizing that we don't have to fix ourselves, that we're not flawed, we're not broken, but we just got wounded. We all got wounded some way or another. at some point, right? And that we can heal ourselves from our core emotional wounding, and that we should do that with, like I said earlier, a lot of gentleness, a lot of self-compassion, because that may actually be the biggest healing in itself, to love ourselves more. And the same goes for, I think I already mentioned it just shortly, that, for example, our inner critic is not something that we also want to judge and shove aside, but wanting to make it go away, wanting it to shut up. But it's actually also a very wounded part inside of us that wants to be healed and needs a lot of compassion. So
beautiful and powerful message. Kindness. So be kind to yourself, and especially in this time, be kind to yourself, love yourself. When you recognize parts of you that are out of alignment, hold the space of compassion for them. Love yourself, forgive yourself, accept yourself as you are, because you're good enough, you're beautiful and brilliant. Yeah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure having you here. Any last messages that you want to share?
No, I think I'm really honored to be here, to be talking with you today, and I hope my message resonates with the audience, and I hope they will listen to my MP3 and see what that can do for them.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. We look forward to more awakening and inspiration and success for everyone. And again, they can find you at soulcreations.com, soul-creation.com, and everything will be available with the recording as well during the launch for everyone to connect with you and experience you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening. Lots of love. Namaste.
Thank you, Maria.